I've been a massage therapist for almost a decade and personal trainer and fitness instructor residing here on Mount Desert Island, Maine, and who has, like many others, experienced a profound impact with some of the topics that we're going to dive into today. But first, I want to share a brief story and introduce a miracle worker of a therapist, friend, and healer, Irene Green Murphy. Irene holds a special place in my heart because Irene helped me climb out of one of the hardest, darkest, and most uncomfortable, sort of painful parts of my life when I was struggling with debilitating anxiety. Although, I'm extremely outgoing, someone might wonder, how could that have been? But I'm also here to remind you that anxiety and depression has no face. And unfortunately, it's a hereditary gift that I get from both sides. I didn't want to go on meds, and I was hoping to be a mom in the near future. So I really refused to let it beat me. But I was getting desperate to feel normal again and was getting really discouraged. And that's when I like to say I found the light. Irene straight up cured me in a few short months naturally with neurofeedback and essentially got me my life back. And my anxiety has been completely gone now for almost a decade. And I'm forever grateful for, what she's done for me and what she continues to do for others. I was once embarrassed and could barely speak of my anxiety, but now I really want to yell it from the rooftops to share with people what I've experienced and how this woman helped me kick it to the curb. Something else that has helped me alongside Irene's magic, I call it, is neurofeedback. It is, other than neurofeedback, is nutrigenomics and a powerful NRF1 and NRF2 activator, which we'll get into. But this has been a great thing to fold into the treatment, and hands down has been instrumental at keeping my anxiety virtually non-existent. So when Irene saw the impact of what this science and activation could do, that we're going to cover, what it could do for mental health, naturally she wanted to jump on board to help as many people as she can. So Irene is an LSCW, LADC, OMC, and has been specializing in cognitive behavioral therapy for over 37 years. Her specialty is in mental health and substance abuse issues and neurofeedback, and currently has an active private practice in Northeast Harbor, Maine. Irene is also a local Maine author. Her book, Delusion, Drug of Choice, describes the silent struggle people deal with in their lives and offers solutions. It provides the readers insight, allowing them to shift their thoughts and experience a sense of well-being and peace. So it's a self-help book. It's a journey really from delusion to truth. So thank you, Irene, for caring so much to share this information. I'd like to kind of hear a little bit about your story. Tell us, what made you embrace this technology and what have you seen with it personally with your practice?
Well, thank you very much, Maya. I'm very excited about LifeVantage and the addition to my practice because, as you described beautifully, I really have embraced more holistic kind of techniques in working with mental health issues for a very long time. And my involvement with neurofeedback started off with that kind of thought in mind, that throwing just traditional medications at a person is not necessarily helping them have their own tools and their body's own ability to restructure itself so that they don't have to be dealing with those type of symptoms. Working with you has been amazing, and watching you grow and blossom has been a beautiful thing to see. And watching you maintain the work that we did with the neurofeedback with LifeVantage has really inspired me. Because like I have said before, I really believe in incorporating holistic techniques to help people hold on to the growth that they get when they work with me, so they don't feel dependent on having to do one thing, and that their body can re-regulate itself. And what I love about the LifeVantage is the description of, I've worked on the cognitive ways of shifting your thoughts so that you can conquer a lot of these issues in mental health. The neurofeedback helped the brain kind of re-regulate itself, and LifeVantage is really helping the body work with the brain, which is really fascinating to me. That gut-brain connection has really been a really exciting thing for me to hear and really want to work with. So that has been why I really have wanted to jump aboard with this, is because I'm always looking for new ways of helping people embrace their own mental health and physical health. And there's a thing, accepting uncertainty in life helps you really accept change. And I think we all struggle with change in our lives, and especially in mental health. There's been a lot of changes in our field other than just the traditional talk therapy, which I've been excited to be embracing and getting aboard with. And this just seems to be just another nice piece of adding something that really complements the mental health group.
Awesome. Thank you, Irene. And can you tell a little bit of a piece too, like, you know, like the before and after, like you get to see actually physical brain waves before somebody comes in with something. And then after they add this addition to their lives, you can actually see an after on your brainwave charts, right?
Yes, you can. Well, the shifting in the brain waves is really amazing. You know, we have the different brain waves that you work with, your delta, your alpha, your theta, and what you notice when you're working with people is those shifts in brain waves in terms of the brain self-regulating. When it gets overstimulated, that it could bring itself down and it can get itself to a more steadier state. And that's a beautiful thing to watch, and watch the progress of someone going through that. And the fact that they can feel that difference and the symptoms go away. I mean, that's the real key there, is that the symptomology is gone. And you can feel, as you've mentioned to me many times, you can actually, when you walk out of my room, feel it. It's like meditation on steroids in a sense, because you actually feel that brain release. You know, and I think that that's the exciting piece of this.
Definitely. Well, that's awesome. You know, we also have a very special guest with us. I want to share some details about him, and also he's going to fill us in all about these things that can help us on top of other treatments. So with more than a decade of experience in cutting edge health trends, Andy D'Agostino, healthcare champion and former Pfizer pharmaceutical representative, is bringing to us a wealth of history and knowledge on current science and mental health. His alignment with this science has given him the chance to be part of the solution to achieving optimal health at the genetic level. And Andy started his education while serving in the military, and after completing 4 educational degrees. That's it, Andy? He has dedicated much of his time reviewing current pharmaceutical and wellness research, and supports the healthcare community, you know, with safe and natural methods to biohack gene expression, maximizing health outcomes. And he specializes in nutrigenomics and natural nootropics, both next generation health strategies. So Andy, please give us a look, you know, into how this science and natural approach is a leading trend for mental health.
Absolutely. Thank you. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. And thank you both for having me on. As you were saying, you kind of mentioned something in the beginning, specifically when you were talking about anxiety, and you've gotten enough help from it from the standpoint now you're kind of screaming from the rooftops. And that's kind of where I'm sitting today. I've been doing this for a while, and it still excites me very much so to be able to get on these calls and be able to educate people. And that's kind of where I am. I'm more of an educator than anything else, because we found something so special. And as Irene was talking about, a perfect adjunct to many things. But it's something where I almost feel like we have a fiduciary duty, because it's so new, because people don't know about it, to be able to educate them. And it's not boring, because it's something they're learning about for the very first time. And so you kind of mentioned a little bit, I was a reformed pharmaceutical rep. And that's kind of how I came from the dark side to the light side, if you will. So I kind of know both ends of the spectrum, and that's how I kind of refer myself to as basically a reformed pharmaceutical rep, which kind of helps people kind of break the ice a little bit. But before I kind of jump into it, I'll give you a little bit more about kind of who I am, just so the people who are watching live and the people who are watching the recording kind of know a little bit about kind of why I have such a passion for this stuff. And it's I started out, I was born, you know, right outside of Boston, in a little town on the edge of Massachusetts and New Hampshire. And I basically grew up wanting to help people, but I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was going through school. So I'm pretty patriotic. So I knew that I wanted to go serve, if you will. So I decided to go join the military, and I had an awesome time in the military, and it gave me so much value from the intangibles that you learn in life. And then when I got done with that, I went back to university, and as you were saying, I got my degrees, but I knew I wanted to help people. And that's when I first started seeing the beginning phases of pharmaceutical commercials. You know, in the beginning, they didn't mention all the bad stuff at the end of the commercials. And I knew right then and there that I wanted to be involved in something like that, because biochemistry and biology and all that stuff really meant a lot to me. And I knew that if I wasn't going to go to school to be a doctor, I could work with doctors to kind of, like I said before, be an adjunct to be able to helping so many more people, thousands of people. Unfortunately for me, I learned early on in my career that I was kind of more the problem and less of the solution. And for me, what I'm regarding as more of the problem is we know that drugs don't get to the root cause to why we have diseases. Drugs more manage the symptoms that arise when we're strict with a disease or an ailment or something like that. And so we're lucky because, like Irene, we've got some of the best doctors in the entire world right here in our backyard, being in the Northeast. And there was always one commonality when I was working with them. They always used to say, listen, Andy, we're stuck in this sick care, reactive environment. If we're ever going to segue to this proactive kind of healthcare environment, we're going to have to manage this one concept of oxidative stress. And that's kind of where the whole story of this education starts. I like to teach things in threes, and oxidative stress is really the first part to it. And if you kind of think of like a flow from a presentation standpoint, the problem that we have right now in society as a whole basically is oxidative stress. And in my talks that I do, I always ask people to raise their hand and say, listen, have you ever had an educated conversation with your doctor, clinician about oxidative stress? And I've been doing this for years, and to date, I still have had nobody raise their hand. And then I ask them the next question, which everybody raises their hand. I said, well, how about if you've ever had an educated conversation about inflammation? And everybody raises their hand. And I ask them, well, what do you think the baseline, the foundation to inflammation is? And it's really oxidative stress. And I kind of let everybody know, like, you hear people all the time talking about how stressed out they are, whether it's the environment they live in, their work, the poor diet, the no exercise, the sedentary lifestyle. Everybody always talks about how stressed out they are. And that's a derivative of oxidative stress. You just don't hear them say, oh, I'm so oxidatively stressed out. And unfortunately with doctors, not to take anything away from them, in medicine, we've never had the ability to manage this concept of oxidative stress. And so if you're watching this right now, when I first found out about LifeVantage, I sat down with my wife, who's a third grade teacher, and I said to her, listen, I understand the science. And if this company truly has the first product line ever that can clinically prove that they can decrease oxidative stress, I think I've found a home. And, being a third grade teacher, she didn't know the science, but she knew that I had a passion for it. She knew more about it than I did, or I knew more about it than she did. And she said, basically, because it was early on into our marriage, she basically said, listen, if we're ever going to do something like this, I think we should take the chance now before everything gets so hectic. And to fast forward a couple of years, I mean, we've got 4 boys now, and all underneath the ages of 8. So it's pretty crazy, but we have so much fun because we found a home and we have a passion. We love what we do. So when you're looking at oxidative stress, for those of you who are checking this out, oxidative stress is really that free radical damage at the cellular level. So when cells are damaged, and that's important to understand because when cells are damaged, you don't have, specifically in relating it to mental health, because that's a topic, when cells are damaged, they can't basically build into amino acids. And amino acids, if you look up the very definition of them, are the building block to life. And they create the proteins. Proteins create the neurotransmitters, and the neurotransmitters in the brain are what makes us feel things, if you will, and our cognitive function and every alertness and everything like that. And so at the cellular level, that's where a lot of this starts. It's the foundation. And so I knew about oxidative stress, and I was really excited to be able to start something, especially being first and being able to realize that this company has a product line that has real science, real substance, certifications, and patents to be able to prove that they could decrease this oxidative damage. And so when I was kind of looking at it from that standpoint, I was like, okay, well, how does this again relate to mental health? And the product line that we have that we're talking about specifically, oxidative damage is basically managed through the activation of a nerve 2 pathway. And I'll get into that in a second. And then as Irene was talking about, the gut-brain balance is really, really important. And we have a breakthrough technology that basically puts us at a cut above the rest of the market from a probiotic standpoint, because that gut flora, that microbiome is so important. That's the communication center, if you will, for your entire body. Even though your brain is the communication center, to make the brain healthy, you have to have healthy neurotransmitters and you have to have a healthy gut connection, basically. And so when you look at those products, the next big thing would be to be able to basically create this concept of mitochondrial biogenesis, which if you're looking at the concept of what, and I'll say it again slowly, mitochondrial biogenesis is, that's really the recreation of healthy mitochondria. And mitochondria are your engines of your cells. And so that's basically what's going to essentially allow the cell to function at its highest efficiency. So if I kind of take a step back, we're dealing with a really bad problem that the medical community can't even touch, can't even reach. So they kind of deal with the second part of that, which is dealing with the symptoms. And now what we're dealing with is something that could really get to the root cause to why we age, why we have problems, and hopefully be able to, you can't say because it's all natural, which is actually a phenomenal thing, which I kind of had a hard time believing in the beginning. I was a real high skeptic just because I came from the allopathic world, the drug world, the molecular component world, into the naturopathic world. And it's not that I never believed it. It's just there's not a lot of real hard science when you're dealing with herbs and natural supplements. Not that there isn't science, it's just there wasn't a lot of it to really give me the ability to say, all right, I'm in completely. But when you're looking at that from an oxidative damage, cellular damage standpoint, we now have the ability at the cellular level to be clinically proven to clean up the cell, to protect the cell, and allow the cell to function at its highest efficiency. So again, if you're looking at it from that standpoint, specifically for mental health and disorders, what if there was a way that we get to the root cause and allow the brain to function efficiently, allow the body to naturally induce its anti-inflammatory enzymes, not just from an arthritic standpoint in the knee, but also an inflammation in the brain standpoint? What if we could increase our natural anti-fibrotic enzymes and turn on our natural antioxidant gene expressions? So we could turn on our anti-scar tissue and our antioxidant to be able to clean up all these free radicals. And that's kind of important to understand, because if that's essentially what our products do, we can now create that natural homeostasis in our body by inducing the good genes and enzymes, reactivating the good genes and enzymes again, and decreasing the bad ones. And that's kind of where the second part to that would be kind of like the solution kind of to the problem is. And I never thought that, there would ever be a natural substance or process that would be able to manage this oxidative damage, just because we've tried in the medical community for so long. However, when I was looking at the company LifeVantage, what really stuck out to me was all the science that was involved in it. So if you're sitting there right now and you're thinking to yourself, well, how do I know if it's real? Because people go to the same three questions when they're looking and evaluating this. Is this real? How can it directly help me? And is it going to be something that I could be on for a little while? So when it comes to is it real, there's a great resource. It's called pubmed.gov, and it stands for Published Medications, and it's run by the government. So PUB as in boy, MED as in dog, .gov. And when you go in there and you want to see kind of how this product line can help you, I want you to type in oxidative stress in any disease state or ailment. And you're going to see hundreds, if not thousands and thousands of peer-reviewed and published articles that are going to pop up. And they're going to give you the validation to kind of look inside those and say, wow, oxidative damage really is attached in the baseline, if you will, for a lot of these diseases and ailments. And then if you want to kind of see the validation that we have, I want you to type in Protandim when you go to PubMed. When you type in Protandim, I want you to think in the back of your mind, well, how many studies do actual supplements have? And how easy is it for a supplement, a natural product, to get a patent? And when you go to PubMed and you type in Protandim, we actually have now 23 studies, and the majority of them are peer-reviewed and published and independently studied. That's pretty important to understand, because your average pharmaceutical has between 3 and 5 studies that their company basically pays for. It's their scientists and they publish it. When I say peer-reviewed and independently studied, I'm not talking about us doing the science. I'm talking about a medical school doing the science. And medical schools can't just get grants from the government to study a natural product like that. So like, for instance, Harvard Medical School did a study. They paid tens of millions of dollars to study our product on Duchenne muscular dystrophy. There was the American Heart Association, the first time ever that they actually went ahead and first time that they studied a natural product that they actually funded, they studied it and they published it. And they did it on intimal hyperplasia and pulmonary hypertension. And then they actually went ahead and not attached themselves, but sponsored a couple more studies, one of them with Ohio State University. And they looked at heart bypass graft studies. And another study that was done, again, independently funded, which may pique the interest more of the actual topic of conversation. They looked at the top 3 worst chronic and terminal diseases. They looked at heart disease, cancer, and then Alzheimer's or mental disorders, specifically Alzheimer's. And they looked at the top 66 genes that were the basis for the foundation to basically turning on Alzheimer's, if you will. And then also the progressive nature. And what they found was, clinically, not us saying it, not me saying it, what they found was the fact that Protandim could reverse the direction that those genes were turned on or those enzymes were turned on. So I can't say cure, treat, prevent, diagnose. I can't say that this is going to be basically a cure for mental disorders and ailments and stuff like that. But what's really neat is we can actually read the science and the clinicals that were done that weren't even done by our company. So it's important to understand that we're bringing to light a new topic where we're not supplementing the body, we're actually activating the body. And that's really the main solution. Our goal in medicine has always been, and this is kind of a topic at hand right now that everybody's into, is functional medicine, where we allow the body to treat the body as a whole, if you will. And we now have been able to do that. And Maya said in the very beginning, through this concept or this industry called nutrigenomics. And the industry of nutrigenomics and what that kind of stands for is the relationship between natural herbs, polyphenols, compounds, and our genome and our enzymes. So how natural herbs affect our genome. And we, LifeVantage, we are the world's foremost experts at nutrigenomics, and we are pioneering that industry with the first 2 prototype technologies. And I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, NRF2 and NRF1. And the way I kind of explain NRF2 and NRF1, just think of it, because I have 4 boys, think of it from the standpoint of a Nerf gun, if you will. And it's what that really is just a protein messenger that activates pathways in the body. So for instance, when I said earlier, we can now protect the cell, clean up the cell, and allow the cell to run at its highest efficiency, basically. We can now do that through activating for the first time these protein messengers. And for those of you who are kind of looking at it from the standpoint of, all right, the science sounds really good, but I need you to kind of dumb it down a little bit and give me a good analogy. I want you to think of your body as like a house fire, if you will, like a wooden structure. But when we're born, everybody's born with a natural defense system. And our defense system isn't just our immune system. It's so much more than that. And that is made up of thousands and thousands of genes and enzymes. They're called survival genes. And unfortunately, some people are born more depleted, more deficient than others. Well, for the topic at hand, when you think about it, imagine oxidative stress being a small fire that's burning in your basement. And people start to age in their late teens and early 20s. That's why if your parents ever told you, wait till you graduate from college, you're not going to be able to party like you used to. You're not going to be as athletic as you used to. You're going to be tired, all that kind of stuff. Well, that's because your body is in the process of slowing down and starting to age. So these good genes and enzymes are starting to turn down and turn off. And the bad genes and enzymes, the pro-inflammatory ones, the pro-fibrotic ones, the pro-carcinogenic ones, those are starting to increase. And so basically you start to age in your early 20s, you transition in your late 30s to early 40s, and then you're clinical in your 50s and 60s. So normally you're taking the pharmaceutical lunchbox, if you will, the Sunday to Saturday or Sunday to Monday, if you will. That process, unfortunately, because of the world we live in, is starting to happen a lot sooner. What I mean by the current situation of society, what I mean by that is the GMOs, the food additives, the preservatives, the glutens, but also the chemicals. Think about it. Dogs age 7 times faster than humans because they're walking around sniffing the ground and their metabolism's so high. And if you've ever seen them eat, they eat really, really fast. And that concept is starting to happen to us because of all the metals and chemicals that we come in contact with, the foods that we're eating. People are more sedentary, so that's something to kind of think about when now you kind of dial it back in from the analogy standpoint. Now think of whatever age you are. and think of whatever level that fire is building at. So if you're in your 20s and 30s, your first floor now is engulfed in flames. When you're in your 40s and 50s, the second floor. When you're 60s and 70s, that third floor, the entire house is engulfed in flames. And traditionally in medical, the medical society, if you want to put that fire out by taking all these drugs, you take a Dixie cup of water and you basically throw it on the fire. It's going to mitigate just a little bit of the damage, but it's really not going to do much. Well, by activating the body and inducing, reactivating the good genes and enzymes and deactivating the bad ones through our product line, it's essentially putting a sprinkler system in each room of the house. So you're running it for a full 24 hours and you're not allowing that oxidative damage at the cellular level to kind of creep up. So in other words, if you've got a family history genetically, you have a genetic predisposition, or unfortunately, if you've already have a disease like cancer, or if you've been struck with Lyme's disease or something like that, or if you have a mental illness, I'm not saying this is a cure, but this is a way where we can finally get to the root cause all naturally with no chemicals, no additives or anything like that. And we can simply reactivate the body. And real quick, how we do that is through the synergy of our products. It took 50 years of simple process of elimination. I shouldn't even say simple, I should say painstaking process of elimination, in which we figured out there's a real synergy of taking these natural herbs. So for instance, we have a product, I'll show it, called Protandim right here, like I was just talking about. This product right here is just 5 herbs, but the 5 herbs that are in it, the specific ratio, give it a synergy of 18 times the single ingredient. So in other words, you don't have to remember it because you're going to have resources, but milk thistle, turmeric, all these different herbs that are in it, bacopa and ashwagandha and curcumin, stuff like that. Those herbs that are in it, the mixture of those herbs give it 18 times the efficacy, not because it's a better herb, not because it has less chemicals, which it actually is very, very clean, but it's because it's activating the genes that you would otherwise be supplementing for while you would be taking milk thistle. So when I first started looking at this, the science was really important to me. And that's why when I went to PubMed and I checked it out, it blew me away because natural products just don't have a lot of science. And that kind of took me in a direction where I was looking at it. And the science that we have is pretty amazing. The certifications that we have should let you know that we're as clean as humanly possible. You have, for instance, the Banned Substance Control Group. So any Olympian, any high school athlete, any professional athlete can take our products. They're tested, every batch that we weigh, everything like that. It's tested for anabolic steroids, for metals, chemicals, stuff like that. And then the NSF, which is the sports world's certification. So we have the certifications to be able to prove that we're very clean. And then the patents. It's almost impossible to get a patent. And the patents that we have aren't just standard patents, they're pharmaceutical grade composition patents. So they're layered upon each other. And believe it or not, we have over 10 of them. That's really important to understand because inside of these patents, not only does it say we're clinically proven and patented to be able to decrease oxidative stress, but inside of them, it's testable. So instead of standing up here and saying, or when we're presenting and educating people, instead of presenting off of testimonials, we can now tell people we're quantifiable and verifiable with routine blood tests. So inside of our patents, we're testable through C-reactive protein. We can actually lower C-reactive protein, which is the marker for all things inflammation in the body, in the brain, in the heart, circulatory system, everything like that. And then we're also testable through the osteopont, which is a measurement of scar tissue and around the heart and in the body. We're testable through multiple other ones. But the reason I'm saying it is because we have found a way to be able to activate the body, which in essence is the next phase of where medicine's going. Right now, there's a huge craze taking probiotics, taking enzymes, but the next phase of that, even being more progressive, is going to be making those in the body. So kind of thinking about it from a mental health standpoint, when you think of when I went back to the neurotransmitters, those neurotransmitters, and Irene knows a lot about this, that's basically your mood system of your body. And that's going to give you basically how you feel. And unfortunately, in mental health, that's the hardest profession to be able to regulate people, because a lot of people that are going through this, they don't know necessarily the right way they should be feeling. So they're constantly changing up their protocol, if you will, and they're still not sure whether it's actively working or not. And this is a way where, again, we're not saying cure, treat, prevent, diagnose, but this is a way where it could be a perfect adjunct into, say, behavioral therapy when they're looking at whether it's like Freudian, looking at like past things that have happened to you to bring them to the forefront, or whether they're dealing with the current things that you're dealing with and how to overcome the fear and everything like that, or whether it's neurofeedback and biofeedback. But neurofeedback specifically, when you're looking at like neuronal wise, like electromagnetically, exactly where the problem is, and then you could focus on fixing it. We now have the ability to be an adjunct to that, because we can, again, you can't call it a therapy because we're all natural, but imagine being able to get to the baseline, the foundation of why people start to change biochemically in their brain as they get older, because of the metals, the chemicals, the foods, their lifestyle, the trauma things that happen to them in their life. And now give the body its best ability to be able to turn around and not heal itself, but the products aren't the magic, if you will. The body's the magic. And when you allow the body at the cellular level to function at its highest efficiency, you now have that ability to give the body its best bet at being able to deal with the problems that arise, if that makes sense. So a couple products that we have. I know I talked about Protandim. That's the Nerf 2 one. Protandim Nerf 1 is the Nerf 1 is the the mitochondrial biogenesis. So like if anybody's out there and they're mechanics, or they're mechanically inclined, which I'm not, but it kind of makes sense to me. When you're dealing with our product line, Protandim Nerf 2, it's basically like waking up every morning and putting a brand new catalytic converter into their car every single day for the rest of their life. And that's important to understand, because at the cellular level, when it goes through the process of ATP, which is the mitochondria creates up to 95% of the energy that we feel and go through every single day. Well, that's Protandim Nerf 1. And that's like putting a brand new engine into our car every single day. So if you're doing just those two products, now what you're doing is you're allowing the engine in the car to run efficiently every single day. And you're also cleaning up all the waste product and just cleaning up the car in general. And then we have ProBio, which is, I personally believe it's the world's most efficient probiotic. And that's important because of the gut-brain connection. That's the communication center of the body. And so that's like essentially putting in all clean fluids and filling it up every single day in the car. And that's important because when you're dealing with probiotics, you see on the commercial, unfortunately, it's the marketing thing where you think more is better. So they'll tell you marketing wise, oh, there's 25 billion good bacteria that's in this probiotic. And that's because the body isn't really going to be able to metabolize as much as that as it gets into the gut, and the whole goal of it is to get to the Peyer's patch. And so unfortunately your saliva, the environment that's in your stomach, and even the environment that's in your gut is going to basically destroy bacteria before it gets there. The reason ours is so important and it's a breakthrough is because we have a time-released concept in there. And we also have Wellmune that's attached to it. So just a probiotic alone, we only have 6 billion bacteria, the good bacteria. But the reason we have 6 billion is because it actually gets to your gut and it gets to the Peyer's patch, and it has the ability to pass a blood-brain barrier. So now what you're doing is you're creating a very healthy bacterial environment in your gut. And what that's doing essentially is allowing all the nutrients and the minerals and the vitamins and stuff like that from your diet to be able to be brought to the organs and throughout the body. And that's important to understand because when we're first young, when we first start to age, our bodies are vitamin and mineral replete, which means that as long as you're not eating at McDonald's or some fast food restaurant and you have a relatively good diet, your body's own enzymes can break down the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients, everything like that, and bring them because you have the good gut bacteria. But as we age, everything changes. And I'm excited now because I've known about this for a long time, and this company just happens to have an awesome technology to finally be able to get the bacteria to the gut, to the Peyer's patch, to the lumen, to be able to pass the blood-brain barrier. And then also we have the Wellmune, which I was talking about, that's incorporated in it, which instantly kickstarts your immune system. So it's important to understand those two things because now at the cellular level, so Protandim Nerf 1 which is the mitochondrial biogenesis. That's essentially being able to protect the organs of your body at the cellular level. Protandim Nerve 2 is at the cellular level, you're protecting the cells. And then with the probiotic, which being the world's, clinically the world's best, because of its ability to do what it does, now what you're doing is you're allowing the nutrients to be able to be absorbed, and you're allowing the proper communication between, the gut and the brain. And again, if you're just starting with this, that's very important to understand, especially from a mental health standpoint. And then we also have this new concept of nootropics, which is basically smart energy. If you just Google it, you'll be able to see the concept. But what it is we have this product called Axio, and it's I'll show you it. It's a little it's actually pretty efficient. It's called Axio, and what it is it's vegan energy. It's brain food. So what it does for you is it's protecting the cells of your brain. We have ingredients like quercetin, which does that. It actually, at the cellular level, it's protecting the cells. And then on top of it, it's brain food. So it's going to increase your brain power, the cognitive function. It's going to help with protecting the neurotransmitters. It's going to help with basically feeling the mental acuity, the alertness, if you will. And it's really good. You take it, it's vegan, you don't crash, there's no jitters. You just feel alert, if you will. I personally, again, all natural, we can't say cure, treat, prevent, diagnose, but I give it to my children, the majority of our products, and we've seen some amazing results as well. So when you're kind of looking at just the whole product class, if you will, from basically the standpoint of, will this work is it real? Will it work for me? I truly believe it will, just because we're not dealing with any heavy metals, any chemicals, and we're allowing the body to heal itself and protect itself, and allowing the body to run clean. And that's really important to understand, because when you're dealing with mental health, is it a good adjunct? I personally believe so, just because if you can get to the baseline level, the foundational level, and allow at the cellular level to be able to function at its highest efficiency, and then add on top of it the neurofeedback, I think it's just going to be perfect, because you're going to be able to see the difference. And Irene can tell you a little bit more about it if she's actually been able to see the actual difference. I'm sure she has, because I've been doing this for a little while, and I've heard and I've actually seen the difference myself in the actual test and that have been done. So hopefully that makes a little bit of difference. Hopefully that makes sense for you guys. I'll stick around and I'll answer some more questions if I didn't touch upon some things that I probably should have. But for those of you that are looking at this and you're interested in it, you can always get with Irene, and she can help you better understand how to get your hands on this, how to go through a trial of it, and whether or not you think it would be a good fit for you. So hopefully that helps.
Awesome, Andy. Thank you so much. Irene, did you want him to touch on anything else or have anything to add to that?
No, he did an amazing job. And Andy, I really appreciate you explaining that body-mind connection piece. Thank you very much for that. And I hope anybody who's watching this can really embrace and get excited about how this complements a lot of the mental health work and the neurofeedback work that I've been doing and other providers have been doing, and see this as a really great adjunct to your own physical and mental